Welcome to this week's episode of Tyden Talks. This week we are joined by our Senior Vice President of Global Sales, Phil Whitley. Phil has been kind enough to fit us into his busy schedule to discuss some of our company's history. And as all of us are aware at TydenBrooks, we're approaching our 150th year in March 2023. So thank you, Phil, for joining us today. I believe today's podcast will definitely be one of our most popular episodes.
Well, thank you, Jeremy, for inviting me to talk on this podcast. As you know, I tend to talk a lot, so I'll try to keep this to a short session. But I'm excited to talk to you about our company history. 150 years in business is unheard of these days for companies, so I'm real excited that we're part of this.
Yeah, absolutely. And, likewise, myself, I'm proud to be a part of it. Only 21 years here, but, definitely the company, itself to be around for that long. I don't know of any offhand that have been around for 150 years. So, to that, the discussion today, I kind of first wanted to just share details of your start and progress with the company. And then, secondly, to focus on our company's business from the mid to late 70s into the 80s when our plastic business really took off and eventually obviously became a big part of the company's growth. And just so I start off right, I think I got this correct. It was approximately October-ish, 1977 when you started?
That's right, Jeremy. In fact, just this past Monday, I celebrated 45 years
Wow.
at EP08 company. Obviously I was in elementary school when I started, but I've been here doing this 45 years, and I think that tells you I've had a little bit of fun while we're doing it.
Absolutely. I was just thinking to myself, it's definitely interesting to take a look at the company and how it accelerated that time when you started. The growth was, phenomenal. I was looking at numbers and we were tracking it like 25% growth each year and just growing at a rapid pace. And of course, we had a lot of new plastic seals that happened at that time, the Polylock, obviously, and the Grip Lock coin bag and the Pull Tight 2 seal for, fire extinguishers. But maybe you can talk a little bit about what the company was doing when you first started and sort of progressed into that, because I know 77, 78 into the 80s, we really, really grew substantially.
Yes. Early on, I'm talking about, around 1970, the company was still owned by the Brooks family and ran by the Brooks family. And the last Brooks family member passed away in the very early 1970s. And at that point, there was a chance that the company was going to be sold and the proceeds go to Princeton University, which was Mr. Brooks's alma mater. But the employees at that time, led by our old president, Jack Rosner, they told the courts, the employees should have a first right to acquire the company. So at that point, in the early to mid 70s, we became an employee-owned company, and that was really what was responsible for the growth. At that time, we were a very small company, maybe $1 million in sales, and they were beginning in the mid 1970s to start to divide the country into sales territories. And so they had hired a guy in California, they had hired a guy in Chicago, and they had a guy that hired me 45 years ago. His name was Jack Kehoe for the Southeast. So I came on board in one of the early territories that were created at E.J. Brooks Company. And as you said earlier, in that time we were introducing a lot of new products. The industries that we supplied back in that point in history were, I would say, money handlers, banks, and people like that, and transportation type companies, trucking companies, and then we were obviously really big in seals for the fire extinguisher and fire safety business, and we worked with UL to get approval back in 1977 on seals for fire extinguishers. And it's interesting that we today still service those same industries, but over the years we've added a lot more industries into our customer list.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just, reading through the history. I was just fascinated at how many different industries, even today, that we still service, but just our reach and even globally. And, one thing that I noticed was that really in 77 and 78, and I think you were right there apart with it. So I'll leave it with you. But the utilities business was something we never really, until that time, sort of got into, or at least this, in depth. And I think you had a big part of it at the beginning.
Yeah, it's funny. I started in October of '77, and 2 months later, we learned that E.J. Brooks had acquired a company out of Hills, Michigan, by the name of Extreme Industries, and they made different types of electric metering products, adapters, and things like that for the electric utilities. And ironically, they were selling their product line to the same people within the electric utilities that EJ Brooks, we were selling, security seals. And the utility portion of industry, that portion of our business has always been substantial. And so back in the '70s, myself and others that came later for our sales team, we handled utility companies, banks, trucking companies. So in any given day, we would call on a utility company, a bank, and a trucking company. We did it all back at that time, and we started to grow Extreme Industries. And then a few years later, we acquired another electric utility supplier by the name of Meter Devices, which was ironically calling on the same people that we were calling on for, for the Ekstrom and the EJ Brooks product lines. So our sales teams sold all three products. And back in that time, from a security seal standpoint, utilities used different types of metal seals for sealing their electric meters. Plastic seals and acrylic seals that are in use today didn't exist back at that time. At that time when we started introducing patents on plastic seals, and that really was the kickoff to our growth. I still tell people today that the EJ Brooks plastic padlock seal is the reason I'm sitting here today, Jeremy, talking to you about our company. It was such a big, huge part of the growth and history of EJ Brooks Company, but that's how it all got started.
Yeah, it's amazing when I go through all the different notes and information on the companies and how they contributed to the success and just the development of the different products that we created. Many still in use today. Obviously, we know we've had a lot of people duplicate our designs. That innovation that we did in many industries was exceptional. And maybe you can speak a bit about Zappa Plastics and then TransGuard, because I think Zappa was 83 and 85 was TransGuard. And, even in 85, we had the EJ Brooks Industries in Canada. And I think Brooks Toto came in around that time too in Spain. We really started to expand even more internationally.
Yeah, I would say the early to mid '80s was a really a busy time at EJ Brooks Company. Our president Jack Rosner took a real global approach to growing the business, and we made several acquisitions, but at the same time we created a lot of licensing agreements around the world whereby we licensed our products to to companies in other parts of the world where they could produce our patented products under license and sell them in that part of the world. So, and at the same time, we created joint ventures. So, Zappa was actually an acquisition of a molding company. We, as plastics took off, we needed capacity, plastic injection molding capacity, and we acquired Zappa Plastics, which was in Phillipsburg, New Jersey, nearby, our facilities in New Jersey.
Yep.
And although they did other products for other industries, they were a primary molder for us. And eventually we acquired the company and it became part of E.J. Brooks Company. And, a very similar thing with TransGuard. That was some people that had started a little company called Bramall Incorporated to make barrier type seals for rail industries and trucking. And they were an early startup called TransGuard, and we acquired that business in around mid 80s. And that today is a facility that manufactures all our cable and bolt seals. But, we set up businesses in Canada, as well as Europe. We created E.J. Brooks Limited in near London for the European market, and those locations, for the most part, exist today, and are still producing product, for security seal users around the world.
Yeah, it's amazing that time in the 80s just to see how we branched out, and the different products that we introduced to the market in a lot of different industries. Is there maybe a few products that you wanted to share with us that you remember during that time that sort of really, I guess, were innovative enough that revolutionized certain markets or industries that maybe we worked in, but maybe we created a product that changed everything for them?
Sure, and I think it all goes back, Jeremy, to one word that I would use to describe, Jack Rosner's vision and the philosophy, and the marketing approach at E.J. Brooks Company, and that word would be innovation. We were known as not only as the premier high quality manufacturer of security seals and various locking devices. We were known to be the one to innovate and make changes. So a couple examples of that would be, utility companies used to use a metal padlock on electric meters, but you couldn't do, color coding with that metal padlock. It was a galvanized color.
Yep.
And so we introduced the plastic padlock line, which evolved into other products like the Enduro Seal and Secure Hash 2 Seal that we still sell to utilities today.
Hmm.
Also, back in the day when I first started, we sold a lot of lead coin and currency bag seals, to various banks, as well as Federal Reserve locations, as well as armored car companies, because coin and cash was handled by armored cars and transported, and they consumed a lot of seals for securing coin bags, and other types of containers within the banking industry. So, but lead was a problem, and we were very innovative in a program called Get the Lead Out, and we introduced a product called a grip lock coin bag seal that worked with the same sealing tools that lead seals were closed and secured with, but it was a plastic and metal product that contained no hazardous materials, and we changed the industry pretty much from lead seals to coin bag seals. So that product comes to mind. And then very similar to that, lead and wire seals were very important. In fact, the first 2 weeks that I started in this business 45 years ago, I worked in the lead room in Newark, New Jersey,
Wow.
helping them make lead seals, right? But those also were very hazardous, but that was some of the earliest version of and form factors of security seals was a lead and wire seal. And so we introduced back in the 80s the rotoseal and the toolless rotoseal, which were used to eliminate lead in those operations. So that's the type of innovation that E.J. Brooks Company did with products, and the markets responded very well to that. Each industry responded well to that, and they looked to E.J. Brooks Company as, if anybody's going to introduce a new product that will help us, it will be E.J. Brooks Company. We still enjoy that reputation today. And I think the last thing I would say, Jeremy, is the thing I love about our business. We make We make disposable security seals. They're not reusable. Our product line has planned obsolescence built right into the product. So as long as we, provide good quality product, good service, and adequate lead times to our customers, our customers become very sticky, and we don't see a lot of change. And we enjoy, customers today that we have 30 and 40-year histories with. You don't see that in a lot of industries these days.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? I know we're definitely going to have another conversation as we kind of get into the new year, and maybe we can dig into the sort of next, few decades after that, especially once we get into the 2000s. I know there's going to be some, interesting discussions there, but, thanks for taking some time with us today and, sharing details about our company history and the innovation. And, we look forward to, speaking in the new year to give everybody another episode before we celebrate in March.
Well, Jeremy, thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to you today. I very much appreciate what you do for our company also, and I look forward to the next chapter in this discussion.
Excellent. Thanks so much. And to all our listeners, please stay tuned, like and share, follow our podcast. And of course, if you want to learn more about TydenBrooks, we're on LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook,
or visit us at www.tydenbrooks.com.